Good morning, everyone. I'm Morgan Donner, and today I'm going to walk you through a little project I did a couple months back, a cute little green button-up hood. Much like the men's video I did a few weeks back, we'll need to start out with some measurements. First off, wrap the measuring tape around your face and consider giving yourself a little bit of extra room, maybe an inch or two, since you'll probably find that having something really tight around your jaw is kind of weird feeling. Use that measurement divided in half and start from the fold in the fabric measuring downward. This will become the face opening of the hood. Sorry that I'm darn near off camera here. I filmed this several months ago and some of my camera filming choices are interesting. Next, we'll measure around the crown of the head, and I'm going to use that whole measurement because I like to have a little bit of extra to fold back. If you don't want that excess overhang, then take maybe an inch off of your measurement. Divide that number in half, and then measure back from the face towards the back of the head. Curve the under the chin line downward, and check that you have enough room for the neck. I strongly recommend adding at least an extra inch here. I don't know about you, but I don't like having tight things around my neck. Anyways, start the skirt at the back of the head, slightly above the chin, eyeballing a 45-degree angle away. Add a skirt line below the neck as well. Ignore the little bit in the drawing here where it shows a curved line for the skirt front. Keep that line straight. Measuring from the center of the top of your head, follow the curve of the side of your head, neck, and then shoulder until you hit your desired length. This is going to be a short hood, so I'm stopping right before the shoulder. On the fabric, check that measurement from the top to the bottom and use that to mark the skirt length. Round off the hem of the skirt, but do make sure that the back and the front are meeting the hem at right angles. We're going to add a godette to the skirt, so add a cut line through the center of the skirt. Make sure that you go up high enough, almost to the narrowest section of the neck. Add a curved bit at the back of the head. This will become the leer pipe, which is a fun medieval feature and a pretty common element of these short hoods. See? So many leer pipes. The drafting is done, so cut out the hood and a long narrow piece for the leer pipe. Jumping forward a couple steps, I've sewn the back of the head, secured the seam allowance down with whip stitches, and attached the leer pipe. You could cut the body of the hood and the leer pipe in one piece, but I often make hoods out of bits of scrap and fabric that are too small for a really properly long leer pipe, so I almost always put one together out of multiple pieces anyways. To finish sewing the back of the hood, we'll stitch the leer pipe closed down the back and make sure to taper down these last few inches of the pipe. Iron the seam allowance open, making sure things are nice and flat. Turn the leer pipe inside out, or I guess right side out. If you've ever had to turn a really narrow piece like this before, you know it can be a little bit difficult. If you find yourself getting stuck part way, using some pliers can help pull the fabric out along. It's not very fast, but you'll get there eventually. To keep the hood edges from fraying, we'll need to turn the edges in and whip stitch them down. It doesn't need to be very tidy since I'm just going to line this hood later, but do make sure to keep your stitches on the outside really small so you can't see them on the finished hood. Next up, I'll need to figure out how big the godette should be. The one in the clip here is way too narrow. It's just a bit of scrap I had on hand to demonstrate. By the way, do not follow my example here on godette length. See how I marked the line as going higher by about an inch in the chalk? I can't recall why I decided to not follow through and make the godette that long, but that made the skirt flare start way too low once it was done, so do start your godette just barely below the narrowest section of the neck. I've temporarily stitched up the neck so that I can try the hood on my mannequin and see how big that godette needs to be. Cut a triangle piece out to fit the missing part of the skirt. Because I'm a jerk, I lost a bunch of footage of the next few steps, so I'll just have to kind of move on to the completed version now, I guess. The godette was whip stitched in place, and I made a white linen lining by tracing the green hood onto linen and machine sewed the godettes. The edge of the linen was folded under about half an inch or so, and then attached to the green wool with some more whip stitches. Always whip stitches. I made some pewter buttons and attached them to the very edge of the hood opening. Definitely use a couple passes through the button shake, that'll make it less likely to wear through the thread and fall off. I've already sewn all of the buttons on, but I still have a few more buttonholes to go. To mark the next buttonhole location, I'll line up the hood's neck opening and add a pin to the buttonhole side, perpendicularly to the fabric edge. Thread a needle with a very long thread that's been folded in half twice. To start the base row of stitches, I'll enter the fabric about 1 centimeter from the edge, take a tiny little bite out of the fabric, and draw the needle through the looped end of the thread. That'll lock it in place without doing an actual big lumpy knot. Then pull up through the surface of the hood. I like to always start in this lower left corner for each buttonhole. No particular reason, I think, it's just that consistency makes it easier for me to remember how to do the buttonhole each time I need to for a project. Wherever you start, make a rectangle around the future buttonhole in little back stitches, and once you've reached your starting point, cut the buttonhole open with a seam ripper, stopping just short of those back stitches. Double check that the button fits through the cut before continuing on. To do a buttonhole stitch, loop the thread around as shown here, and then thread the needle down through the cut opening and up right next to your starting thread. Repeat that 50 billion times until you reach the end of the row. To end the first row, I like to do a longer stitch the whole width of the rectangle, and then stitch down through the middle and back out this corner. Then repeat the same buttonhole stitch down the second side of the rectangle, a couple long stitches here at the end, and then I like to flip it over to secure any unsecured fabric. Travel the needle up through the 2 layers of fabric, hiding your thread inside. Snip off any excess remaining thread, or use it to start your next buttonhole. These aren't exactly my prettiest buttonholes, but they'll get the job done. And with that, we're done. Please do pardon the colorful nails. I was in a sort of glitter rainbow mood. I haven't mentioned it before, but you might want to consider how you will wear your hair with the completed hood, especially if you have fairly thick or long hair. I drafted this hood to be quite snug against the head, so if I decided that I wanted to wear a low bun or a braid down the back of my neck, this would suddenly become really uncomfortably tight. Just something to keep in mind as you measure. Have fun wearing your sexy new hood with all of your 14th and 15th century clothing. It's going to be coming back in fashion any day now, I promise. Hope you had fun watching. Comment below if there's anything that you'd like to see me make. Good night, everyone.